The following are some examples on what team routines you can have in the team. Again, it's not that you have to define these routines. Maybe you can define with the team, or maybe it can be a part of how the organization manage meetings or manage routines. So as if you can standardize this as much as possible, that will be great, because whenever a team member moves from a project to the other project, they will all have kind of the same routines. So what are these examples? Team meetings will be held once a day, no matter what. Stand-up meetings will be no longer than 15 minutes, so everyone knows they need to speak fast, or that they need to know very clear what are they going to say. Agendas will be sent 2 days before the meeting. Agendas are very important to make sure that meetings are done the right way. There has to be no side conversations. You have to agree to share concerns openly. You will use consensus process for all key team decisions. There are also many companies that already define a conflict resolution process so that all conflicts are resolved and exposed the same way. Most of the companies that have defined a purpose and values use this purpose and values all the time in meetings in order to make decisions. Like if you define that the most important part of the process is your customer, some companies, for example, Amazon, would leave in whenever they're meeting, they have a chair that they just leave no one sitting in that chair, because that's the chair of the customer. So that's a way for them to show that the customer is first for them. And whenever they need to make a decision, they make someone sit in that chair and decide as if they were the customer. So this is a great example. And the other thing is that you have to make sure that whatever you agree to do, action items, will have an owner and a timeline and will be written somewhere. If you're able to meet face to face, you can have a whiteboard, or you can have an Excel spreadsheet, or you can have a tool, online tool that you can use either if you're meeting face to face or if you're meeting remotely. Through these tools, everyone knows what is being done, who has to do it, and when it has to be done. The way you organize meetings is crucial to empower team members, because you can tell them when they need to ask questions, how they need to prepare, and it also helps to share information and plan next steps. And one example of effective team meetings is done by Pixar. Pixar is a very important company that has had 17 major box office successes in a row, which is something that has never been seen in the cinema industry. And it's because of the way Ed Camel, the co-founder, has gone and has defined that team meetings need to be done. Of course, that's not the only reason, but it's one of the major reasons. They do what they call a brain trust meeting whenever they are working on a project, on a movie. And in these brain trust meetings, employees had to be totally honest about what they think about the movie. They create then, or they have to create, a psychologically safe environment where candor is expected, possible, and also critical feedback is right there. If employees don't say what they think, that's when the movie is mediocre for them. So if they want a really successful movie, they want everyone to express how they feel about it and what they can do to improve it. So this candid feedback is not a gotcha, but must have come from a place of empathy. Really, when you realize that, hey, this is something that could be done better, and how can we all work together to make it better? So people don't have to be afraid of share their updates, share their problems, and share their thoughts. As an exercise today, I invite you, or I challenge you to try to organize your next meetings in only 30 minutes. We always tend to organize meetings for 1 hour. How can you get it to be only 30 minutes? Well, you have to make sure that you have the right people. You don't have people that don't belong to the meeting because that may delay the organization of the meeting. Make sure the agenda is super clear and sent in advance so that people can prepare. Make sure all the participants speak. Have a very clear minutes after the meeting, and make sure that it's organized in such a way that everyone can contribute and has a specific goal, and that goal is met in only 30 minutes. Can you do that? Let's do it. If you have any questions or if you have any trouble, please contact me and we're going to discuss how we can make it better. Especially when you're working remotely, you can also define certain rules on how to do these meetings or certain values. Like, for example, that you will start on time no matter who is already on the call. If you design for a call at 8 a.m., then at 8 a.m. it starts. It doesn't start 8:05. Because imagine if you have only a 30 minutes meeting and you get 5 minutes out of it, you are taking a lot of time out. So make sure you respect that. Then make everyone turn on the camera. That's a good way to make sure everyone is focused and is not multitasking. So that's another good effect. If you reduce the time of the meeting, people is more focused and they are more willing to participate. Then you can also create guidelines that facilitate discussions um, so that no one takes too much airtime. You can train people to always go on mute whenever they are not speaking. You can also invite them to use other channels like Slack. You can explain how to use it so that it's not disturbing or it's not distracting. And also you can invite all your team members to provide new ideas or provide different tools. There are tools all the time that are coming out to help teams become more effective. Today I'm going to share some of them, but your team may come up with new ones. So always be ready to listen what they suggest. The way that I recommend the most to help team routines become the day-to-day work of your team is to make them visual, make them super easy, and make them convenient. If they all these routines are in a paper written and hidden in the drive of a computer that nobody can access, then nobody will check those routines. So make sure these routines are always available, they are always accessible, and make them visual. So if you have an office that is not remote, you are like in a manufacturing environment, you can use visual tools like painting or coloring or shapes to make sure that everyone knows where to put each of the tools. You can have whiteboards to show communications or to show performance. But this cannot only be done physically, you can do it also online. You can do it online through tools like Trello or Asana, where you can showcase who is doing what and how you're doing. You can also brainstorm rules or have or define rules through Mural.co, and this is something that can help you a lot to share ideas online. There are other tools such as Lattice or small improvements that help you or your team to set goals and can help on personal development and also on one-on-one meetings. Methods like Scrum or Kanban are great at helping teams have routines. This is why many tech companies have been able to work very fine remotely because they already had these routines. So Scrum, it's a tool that will help you self-organize your team. Scrum is a framework for developing, delivering, and sustaining complex products. That's why it's very much used for building apps or for building websites. There's a Scrum guide that contains all the definitions of Scrum, such as the Scrum's roles, like the product owner, the Scrum development team, and the Scrum Master, which are the three more important. Then you have what they call events or activities that are the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, the sprint review, the retrospective, and the sprint. And they also have what they call the artifacts that are the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. The creator of the Scrum are Ken Schwaber and Chef Sutherland. And now I'm going to speak a lot or a bit more about Scrum. So in a Scrum, you divide a project. Let's say you want to build an app. You divide that project in different milestones, which are called sprints. By default, the company usually or the teams usually have the same duration for the sprints, usually a week, 2 weeks, or 1 month. I like to say it's like a week. So they define what is the goal they're going to achieve during the sprint, during that week. They set a goal to create a potentially shippable product increment in every sprint. So let's say you're building this app. So every week you're gonna add a different button to the app. So that means that every week you can ship the app or upload it to the app system so that people can try that new button. That button works perfectly. They have tested it and they have seen that it worked, but they don't have one button just have and you cannot test it. So whatever you build after one sprint, it needs to be able to be tested. Then you define all the actions that need to be achieved during that week so that you can achieve that specific goal in the sprint. Then you define a way to submit the request or ask for help. That could be a daily meeting. And you also have retrospective meetings that are done at the end of the sprint so that you can analyze what can be improved in the team performance. On the right, you can see a tool that is called Retrim. That is a tool that helps do better retrospective meetings. It helps you to see what you can start doing, what you have to stop doing, and what you have to continue doing because it has been super effective. To have also an effective team routine, you have to use the work environment to help you. The work environment can be physical or can be virtual or can be individual in every individual's house. So if you are working in a shared office, you're co-locating, you have to work on the space organization, the equipment, good sunlight, maybe you have less distractions, you can have the walls painted in a certain way. So as a company, you can define what's the environment that you want to build for your employees. Companies like Google, for example, they said that they want to have a swimming pool or that they want to have cafes for people to discuss things. But what happens when you have when you're working remotely and everyone works in their house? Well, you can still help them with suggestions on how to build a right environment. You can help them with money to have the right equipment or the right tables to work. And you can also have different things online, such as Zoom meetings where you can have mindfulness or where you can share different training sessions so that people feel like they're working in the office. The last part of helping your team build routine is to let your team decide their own tasks and goals. So this is something that is used in Scrum whenever a sprint needs to be achieved. So you have a backlog with all the items that needs to be done. This backlog is like a pile of items that need to be accomplished. Now you have to let the employees decide who can do each of them and when they can do it. When they can decide their own tasks and goals, they feel more empowered to finish with them. They feel responsible and they feel accountable for the results. Now, another exercise to finish this skill is check your team routines. Think about how they change and how they change from whenever they were working together and how they change when they were working remotely. Try to think about, so write down on the first column what are the collocated team routines, then write down on the second column what are the remote team routines. If you are working remotely, if you're not working remotely yet, just think about what could change and then propose improvements or suggestions. Plan how you can improve these routines so that you help employees become more empowered and work more effectively. So that's it for this skill. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. Send me or write down if you have any questions. You can write a comment or share your questions on social media. And next, follow me on the next skill. Thank you.